Showtime. It's game time. And ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Dr. Josh Partnow.
Thank you. How are you today? Nice to see you.
We might use that for the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. We've got Dr. Josh Partnow here, an ER physician, medical director of the ER at California Hospital,
That's
which
right.
is downtown.
Big place, big, busy, high volume, high acuity place.
That sounds like high stress. We're going to talk wellness and burnout today. We're in the same group, Valley Emergency Physicians, and a year ago, Josh stood up at our shareholder meeting and told a story about burnout and wellness that, as I told you before, Gary Tamkin and I were leading the discussion, and I was like, Gary, you got to cut this guy off. He's talking too long. He's going too far. This is just, it's not what we're looking for. But Gary let him talk. Josh really told a good story. And a lot of people came up to me after and said, I really identified with that. That was good to hear a story of, kind of burnout and wellness. And I figured we could start there. And
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you even remember that story?
There's so many patients where the encounter can be similar to that one. I don't actually recall the exact specifics of that encounter, but just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I went to medical school in college back east and did residency 2001 to 2004 at a busy, high volume, high acuity trauma center, St. Luke's Roosevelt in Manhattan, and then I worked in a...
I know St. Luke's.
Oh yeah, it's a fun spot. It's busy in Midtown in the upper west side of Manhattan. So I was accustomed to seeing a lot of sick people and being very busy in kind of a chaotic New York City trauma center. And then I took a job in Jersey City Medical Center and worked another busy, high volume place for a few years. And then
After residency,
yeah. And then my wife and I moved out to California and worked in a few emergency rooms, but really fell in love with California Hospital, and that's where I found my home, and that's where I'm the current medical director.
So you've been a doctor 16-ish years.
Since 2001,
Yeah. How long have you been at California now?
Since 2007, so that'll be 10
years.
Going on in my 11th year.
And now you're the medical director.
Yep. As of October, yes.
I'm sure a whole new set of burnout wellness issues different from being a provider.
Yeah.
So how, for you, working in these environments, kind of busy, high volume, when you graduated residency, I'm curious, like looking back, were you burnt out in residency? Did it happen afterwards? How would you?
So looking back on it, I didn't recognize the warning signs of burnout, but looking back on it, I think it occurred in my first job during my first 3 years out of residency. And I remember a lot of providers that I was working with saying, geez, you're a nice guy, but you're kind of a jerk at work. And we don't really enjoy all the negativity that you bring to work. And I didn't see it at all. I just thought I was doing a great job and I thought I was pretty happy there. But I kept getting pushback from other people, both nurses, nurses and providers saying, you're really just not that nice of a guy to work with. You're not nice to us. You're not nice to the patients. You seem angry. The word angry and frustrated kept being brought up. And I'm a very positive person. I'm well liked by a lot of people.
And the funny thing is you had no idea besides this
I just figured it was them. I just thought, this is not the right fit. And when my wife and I got married a couple weeks later, we decided to move out to California and just kind of start afresh and just, the glory land and 70 and sunny, and let's just see what happens. And I started working at a small emergency room on the west side, full-time and then part-time at California Hospital. And I brought all those same attributes to those new emergency rooms, and I was getting the same feedback.
Dr. Partnow did not. The angry Dr. Partnow just moved to the West Coast.
So, classic, you think, a new beginning, you move to a new place and you're going to have new outlook, and you cannot run away from this. Absolutely not. And I still didn't know this term burnout, and I didn't recognize anything, but I certainly didn't feel that happy at work.
Let me ask you this. Was the environment different? Or was it the similar high volume ER?
So the west side emergency room was teeny. It was a teeny little place. St. John's was in the old emergency room, and it was catering to a different clientele, kind of an upper class, a lot of movie stars, a lot of athletes, people with high expectations. So there were different stresses placed upon us, but it wasn't like, move the meat, see patients fast, crank through, chart well. That was
Did
not the
you
case.
think at the time maybe a different environment like that would? But you didn't really appreciate that there was much of a problem.
Not at all.
So
Yeah,
you
not
did.
at
It's
all.
not like you were thinking, oh, I want to be happier at this kind of a practice. You guys were coming west.
Yeah. And so I was doing the per diem work at Cal and the full-time work at St. John's, and a nurse came up to me about a year into my living in California and working. I was working a lot of hours just to kind of, run into the rat race as fast as possible. I was doing like 180 hours of work, still flying back and forth to Manhattan and working every 6 weeks for 20 hours on top of a 180-hour work month. So I was doing upwards of 200 hours a month some months. And I had a nurse come up to me, and we became casually friends, and my wife and she became friends. And one day she came up to me in the emergency room and said, I don't really want to be friends with you anymore. And I said, wow, that's shocking. I thought we were totally cool, and we hung out socially, three of us, and had other couples hang out. And she said, you're kind of a nasty person. And I was like, I'm like the fun, happy-go-lucky guy. She said, no, outside of work you are, but I don't like the way you treat patients in the emergency room, and I don't want to associate with you anymore.
Wow.
That was a huge gut check. I'm going all the way back to like 2008, 2009.
That's when she told you that?
Yeah,
So
and I
that's
lost a
when it
friend.
kind of finally registered.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and she really was like,
I've never
this
heard-
wasn't
yeah.
like a wake-up call, you changed and you were still friends. Like,
No, I'm now friendly with her, and I've told her that I've come a long way since then. But yeah, she's a great person, and she's friends with a lot of the nurses at Cal, still some of the old-time people. She hadn't been there for years, but she is a nurse locally, fantastic person, fantastic nurse. And that was a big gut check for me to say, wow, I lost a friend over being a jerk at work.
you heard this one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That hit me deep. That's when I realized it's time to do some introspection. In the meantime, I was developing problems with coworkers, developing problems with patients, and because of that, developing a problem with the director, Mark Feudernick. He had a problem with me. Everyone had a problem.
So this nurse said something, and then you're starting to hear stuff more.
I was
and then
getting
the
written up by
directors-
patients. I was sitting in Mark Feudernick's office over and over, and he was coaching me through it, trying to say, look, we really like you, and you're doing a great job here, but you got a major interpersonal problem going on here, that your professionalism is just awful. And I didn't see it. And then we would have these monthly, yearly reviews where you're looking at what people are writing about you. It's like, wow, I can't believe this. And I'd go home and pour my soul out to my parents and my wife saying, am I like this? And no one could understand, because that's just not how I function.
in your social life and your personal life.
No problems
could understand.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
My wife would joke around that I could be, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. And I can be difficult to deal with a little bit with kind of like OCD personality traits. But nothing. They were shocked, and this is written up. And I was saying, I'm reading this documentation. It's awful. And I'd been written up by admitting docs. I'd been written up by nurses. I'd been written up now by these other colleagues of mine.
I didn't realize you had such a history. We might have to cancel this interview right now.
So then I sit down. So we had a lot of talks, Dr. Feudernick and I did, in the little break room. Then we had an office visit in his office.
Like escalates.
He sat down, I sat down, and he said, Josh, I think you know what the problem is here. And I said, I do. And he said, and we had a long talk that day. And he said, I want to be crystal clear with you. If you sit in that chair again in my office, that's going to be your last day of work. Do you understand what I'm talking about? And I said, crystal clear. I have a major problem.
Yeah.
I then went home and I did some major, major soul searching. And then every month, what I did with Mark is I said, let's schedule a sit down and you tell me how I'm doing, and I'm going to work on this. I promise you, I'm going to make this work. I love this hospital. I love this patient population. I love my colleagues and the nurses. This is a me problem. This is not a problem, and it's got nothing to do with my environment. This is a problem with me. So I then did major soul searching. Still didn't know the term burnout.
But let me stop you before you get into the soul searching. So was it the threat of losing your job? You liked California? I'm curious, because you had all these other things that kind of built up to this.
This was a culmination.
Yeah, why was it then that you were finally like, okay, I'm ready to deal with
this was a couple years of problem, and now to have a termination over my head because of me and my disruptiveness and my unprofessionalism had nothing to do with medical care. I was providing excellent medical care. I was so wound up at work and so stressed out without even realizing it, and so angry and bitter at the whole thing, and being that disruptive classic patient that gets described, provider rather, that gets described. I realized that, boy, if this person that I respect, that has been giving me chance after chance after chance, is saying, this is it, we're going to fire you if you don't clean up your act now. This is it, last chance. That's when you have to do some soul searching and say, I've got a problem. It's kind of like you finally realize, you say, someone has to finally realize, boy, I keep falling down drunk and knocking my teeth out. Eventually you have to say, I have a drinking problem.
So it's like you didn't finally...
I don't have a drinking problem, I don't drink.
You didn't finally admit to yourself until you were about to be fired for this. You're like, oh wow, it's me.
So what we did is we had these sit-downs. Again, this is years before the term burnout was even a sexy term, the wellness, physician wellness, this is years and years before that. I then tried to chip away. And so what I did is I created this little mnemonic that people would tease me about, but they knew I was working on it. Everyone in the ER knew I was working on it. I actually had to like stand up and tell people what I was doing, that I was actively engaging in self-reflection, mindfulness, and self-awareness, and trying to improve myself. And I put a little mnemonic above the computer screen, and I looked at it 1,000 times a day. I said it to myself every time I walked into the emergency room. I put it in my locker, and it was KCHR.
Okay. Kindness,
compassion, humility, and respect. And was I perfect? No, absolutely not. And I definitely had foul ups, and I still do. I mean, you can't get away from this thing. You can only manage it. And I had foul ups a couple times, but minor ones. And we would have chats in the break room with Mark, and he would just tell me how I'm doing. And every year it was getting a little bit better, and fewer people were writing awful things about me in my yearly reviews. And I was getting better and more liked. And luckily, it was a new group of nurses, new group of doctors. So I had, in all honesty, a second chance to prove myself as a human being in that emergency room.
A little bit of a fresh start.
Yeah. So then KCHR, well, eventually we got new computers.
How did you come up with that?
I just thought about like, what is my role and goal here in this emergency room, and what is dragging me down? And I reflected on what Teresa Totani had said to me, this nurse from a couple of years before this.
Yeah.
And I just put it together and decided that was going to be it. Years later, we got new computers, and that's no longer up there. But that people will still kind of joke around and say, "Hey, that KCHR is still working for you, isn't it?" So then fast forward.
that kind of mantra.
Yeah. Of constantly saying to myself every day I went into work, every day that I was in the shift looking at a visual cue, and in my locker at the beginning of work saying, be a good guy. Relax and be a good guy. That's all you got to do.
I'm wondering, like, for people that have similar issues, kind of figuring out something that gets them into that space of who they want to be, and then
a visual cue.
Yeah, the cue.
Yeah.
I mean, you like write the thing down like you did, have a bracelet, some kind of thing, and some kind of practice that trains you.
And then when you talk about changing hats, like when you get home to put the doctor hat off and put the dad or the husband hat on, or just the Josh hat on. When I was going into work, I was getting into that zone of just like, let's just find some peacefulness, let's get to work and just do a good job and be happy. And walking into that emergency room, every single time I said to myself, just calm yourself down, relax, enjoy yourself, provide the excellent care that you know how to provide, and don't tick anyone off.
So you kind of had a ritual. You kind of set your intention in the beginning, certain positive self-talk. You kind of got into a state beforehand and then executed when you were there.
So then now fast forward. So now that's the whole background. Now I'm as well liked as I think anyone else is, have nice things written about me by nurses and patients. I have gone from being a pit doc to the associate medical director in February, and then a couple months later got promoted to be the medical director.
It's kind of a great story, right? Like burnout problem doc, about fired, however, 7 years ago or whatever, and now you're the medical director. It's kind of a good story, right? Because you can probably identify this now in other up-and-coming physicians and kind of counsel them and say, look, I was that guy.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So then we went to the shareholder meeting. Was that two years ago, or was that last year in San
I think it was
Fran?
last. No, it was last year because we've only been talking about wellness and
Yes,
burnout
this was
for
last
a year.
Last winter. We had Dyke Drummond come and lecture us, and again, so I had been coming to the shareholder meetings, but I wasn't great about being there on Sunday. I wasn't great at participating and staying in town for that because of
Most
wife
people
and kids.
split, yeah.
But for I had heard about this lecture coming up, and I thought it was kind of hokey, but it maybe related to me in a little bit. So I went in there, and there was of the 200 people that go to the shareholder meeting, there was 60, 70 people there at that time.
It was actually a good turnout for a Sunday.
Yeah, it was pretty decent. So I was listening, and I was either laughing or crying the whole time. He was describing me.
Yeah.
He was totally describing me to a T. Every single thing he said got a hit, to the point where I was texting my wife going, "You got to come down here. This guy is describing me." And she was managing the kids. She wasn't able to join. But I left there with eyes wide open. I was
Even more so than your process with food. Like this,
now it's
Dyke really put
it's
words on it and identified it.
Yeah, absolutely. So then,
Let me plug that for a minute. So that the shareholder thing, the talk that he gave, it's actually available on the VEP website internally. It's not public stuff because it's Dyke's, but you can access that through the portal, I believe. But anyway, you can get to it and to hear the stuff that you're talking about, it's available to VEP providers. So
I then went on and I said, I got to buy this book, read the book. Well, they actually, VEP provided us the books.
and we still do provide the book. If you haven't got one and you want it, let's show the
Highly
book.
recommend this book. And I'm not much of an avid reader, but so Stop Physician Burnout. And it's actually an interesting title because it's not necessarily stop physician burnout. It's recognize physician burnout. If you can't prevent it already, recognize it, treat it, manage it, cope with it.
Yeah, understand
Because it's
it.
not a problem with a solution, it's a dilemma.
Yeah.
And that's a big, big difference. So I read the book. I'm not going to lie to you, I read half of it. I didn't read the whole thing. But in the first half of it, again, it was reinforcing things. I took notes, and then I took that to my provider meeting. And my provider meeting was May 10th of 2017, and I just gave a synopsis of it. And here's the beautiful aspect of it. During the past 6 months preceding into that May, I recognized that there was a physician in our group that was struggling. He was struggling in a way that was so similar to mine, and it was just unspoken. It was the elephant in the room. This physician was doing many things that I had been doing, short with staff, short with patients, disruptive, not yelling, but certainly sarcastic, spiteful, digging, a look on his face that was not a kind look, short, cutting people off, the whole thing. And I was not good at helping. I was not good at it. And I spoke since then to Mark and Patrick Shanovich, our AD, and I thought in retrospect, we as a group were failing this provider. We were letting it slide and bringing up problems with him, but not really addressing the problem. So, or the dilemma, so to speak. So in May, I gave this quick, 10-minute bullet point lecture to my providers, and he came up to me and said, "Boy, the same way that when Dyke, who's a professional, I'm just an amateur at this, same way when he was speaking, that I heard and felt his message, this provider heard and felt my message." And then he had one big problem after that with a nurse. And the thing blew up, and we had to get involved administratively with him. And he said, "I'm going to start working on this. I have a problem. And not only am I recognizing it, I feel like it's okay that I have this problem."
Yeah.
A lot of us do. And I said, "That's so important." And I met with him a few times, and I recommended the book to him, and he did read a bit of it as well, and did soul searching. And between what he does in the emergency room and what he does out of the emergency room has been allowing him to cope and to be happier at work and he told me that I've saved his career, and that was just the most meaningful thing I've ever had experienced. And he has been practicing the same time as me. He practiced in New York. He was providing excellent patient care in overseas, actually, for about a decade, and then came to California Hospital a couple years ago to start working with us. And now, again, just like me, just like a lot of us, we still have that ability to be a problem, but we're recognizing it, softening it, and determining, A, how can we prevent the disruptiveness, and if it's developing into the disruptiveness, how to pull it back and how to disengage, and how to provide ourselves with methods of relaxation during the shift, minute to minute, second to second, hour to hour, shift by shift, month to month, year to year, that we can allow ourselves to be happy.
You're bringing up a lot of things we need to unpack here. Let me ask you, what kind of things helped him go from kind of this angry burnout state to better? Like, what practically did he do?
So there's a lot of things. Number one, he's an avid athletic person, and he and I both suffer for some chronic back pain, and he was able to get some therapy for the back, some physical therapy, and get back into the athletics. And he's a surfer.
So get physically active and surf.
That's one thing. He's in extremely good shape.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, he was able to incorporate increased sleeping, improving sleep hygiene. Very important.
It's so funny how basic some of this stuff is, but it really makes a difference.
Yeah, huge.
Like sleep.
Sleep, yeah. And then relationships outside of the emergency room with his wife and kids, just increasing time and energy and opening your heart up to, oftentimes emergency room doctors, we're closed off. We can't allow anyone to come too far in, because if there's a bad outcome, it affects us too much.
Yeah.
So opening
Got a little bit
up,
of a professional kind of wall there to protect you day to day.
Absolutely. And then
so relationships, you said physically active, the relationships. What was the second one?
Sleep.
Okay.
So that's out of the hospital. And then he and I sat down and we said, I think it's time to cut the shifts down a little bit. You're doing a lot of shifts.
Work less.
A lot of shifts. 15 to 17 a month.
It's a little bit, this gets into a little bit of a controversy within the organization because there's not enough physicians. We constantly have schedule issues.
I'm the hero. I'm the workhorse. Put me to work. I'm going to do it. He's the guy that never gave me a whole lot of request restrictions on the schedule, because I'm the scheduler. So he gave me carte blanche. Just put me on 15 times. I need to earn a living. I'm used to making more money somewhere else. Now, Dyke speaks to that.
It's a recipe.
The money situation comes into play, right? Got to work more, got to make more, live in an expensive city.
And I think it's kind of a lifestyle thing too. You're hooked. It's kind of like the high rider life. There's more adrenaline to that. You're making more money, and you're probably spending it.
So then, what did he do while in the hospital?
Yeah.
Number one, I say he was working less. Two, I decided to do a little experiment. We have two parts of our emergency room. We have the acute side.
This will be interesting.
And then we have the fast track side, which we call ED South.
Okay.
Yeah, you make a little less money over in ED South, but it's just flat out easier work. It's less stressful. No one's dying.
It's a little mindless.
It's you've got 3 nurses dedicated to you. You have the same system with the computer and the dragon and everything.
Yeah.
You have a dedicated MA, dedicated tech to set up all your pelvics, to do LAC setups.
Sounds like the good life.
Do your splinting, all this stuff. They are dedicated to you. It's quiet. The patients aren't yelling at you. In general, it smells good over there. It's quiet. You're not constantly signing EKGs. There's less data coming at you and less stress.
Yeah.
So I said, why don't we, A, cut down some shifts a little bit, and B, a couple of times a month work over there. Just a little, shake it up a little bit. Right?
Do more of that. Do more of that kind of this good life.
Yeah, just a little bit. Here, 1 or 2. So if he's doing 15 to 17, let's cut it down to 13 or 14, and let's do 2 over there. Now all of a sudden, you're doing 12 hard shifts instead of 17, and you're doing 2 fun ones.
So he wasn't doing any fast track before.
Most of us don't. I do occasionally work over there because I just find it fun, and maybe it was my own, coping mechanism as well.
Yeah.
So he loves it. He's
so
working
wait a minute. So what else did you change? So you changed that, and then what else in the ER?
So some things that he does that I also do is we escape to the break room. We're currently undergoing a revamping of the break room, which is very important. I think it's extremely important for provider morale to have a little teeny break room, something where you can escape to with a couch, a chair, a computer, quietness, some grapefruit, a little, granola bar, fridge, something to escape the noise and everything. So what I do and what he does is multiple times a shift. Multiple. I'm talking like
every 2 hours?
Almost every 1
hour?
to 2 hours. Yeah.
Okay.
We escape back there. And
Are you guys working? You're just
working. Not like the MLK guys, but
I'm just giving you trouble.
So we escape back there, and I collect my thoughts. So I have a little cheat sheet on things I have to do to catch up with my work. So I have a piece of paper that has the name of the patient, the room, if I saw them, if I wrote a note, if I finished the note, and a little area in there with what's pending. And I check the boxes. So I review that. I have a little snack. I have water. I sit down, stretch. Sometimes I lay down for a minute. This entire break that I'm describing to you, 2 to 4 minutes.
Oh, really?
Tops.
Short and kind of high yield.
And sometimes I go onto the couch. I just breathe it out. I just zen it out. And I'm not a meditation guy, but I just take some deep breaths. I just let it out.
Just kind of lower that blood pressure.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Get out of the adrenaline a little bit.
And then I go back and I feel awesome. I go back and I hit the patient rack. I feel good. Mm-hmm. And I walk back in there with a zest, a joie de vivre. I feel good. I feel reset. And then here's the other amazing thing. Not only am I reset, but when I pick up those next 2 or 3 patients, some of them are easy to take care of because the diagnosis is easy and they're just easygoing. Some is in the middle and some is difficult, either because the diagnosis is difficult or it's a diagnosis I'm a little bit more confused by, just in general, like the eye or the dizzy person, or the patient might just be a little bit more demanding or verbally abusive, whatever it is. I bring more energy to that situation.
Yeah.
I've got more of a buffer, a brake pad. And then I reward myself. I see 3 people, go back to the break room. Why not? I reward myself. I got a little orange. I have 2 tangerines. I have an apple. I got a banana. I've got 2 granola bars. I got a Cliff Bar. I've got a PB&J. I've got whatever we made for dinner the night before. And I have it in my head. I know what I'm going back there for. So I go back. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to manage this. Type the note up. Yeah. I'm going to bang the note out quick. I'm going to go back and have a quick snack. An apple. Apple takes me 45 seconds. I used to do that in the milieu.
Yeah.
I don't eat there anymore.
So you separate those.
Number 1, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Number 2, I separate church from state. I go back there, I eat my apple, I clear my head, I think about things as far as organize my thoughts, and I've rewarded myself.
And you guys, and you're doing this in a very busy ER, right? This isn't just, there's nobody to see, but like there's always people in the waiting room, but still you found a way to kind of take these breaks, whether it's just a breather or a little snack or some food, still seeing a lot of patients and be pretty effective.
And do you know who I got that from? Not from Dyke Drummond. I got that from smokers. Smokers do smoke break all the time.
Modeling after smokers.
Smoke break. They somehow do all their work. All the nurses jump out there and they do the cigarette. I don't smoke. I used to kid around with them. I wish I smoked. I could go out there and hang out and relax. Well, obviously smoking is awful for you for multiple reasons, and it jacks up your blood pressure.
There you go, doctor.
So that's my smoke break. It's my healthy break. It's
now, do you schedule these, or do you just kind of...
In my head, I know. I can feel it.
It's just planned in there, so you don't wait to hit a tipping point and then go, oh, man, I got to get out there. You're just it's just part of the routine. It's just built in.
Now, here's another thing. When there is that big moment, right? It happens a couple times a year, that big moment. Everything's coming down. You got something critical going on. You got a lot of sick people, and you've got some patient who is just in your ear about something, being verbally abusive, and you have a nurse coming at you about something else, and maybe related to that. It's all getting.
This sounds like the overwhelming moment.
Yeah. You can feel it, right? Time out. I just said, you know what? 1 second. Unless something's critical,
just give me a
minute. Need 1 minute. You're coming at me. I can only do one thing at a time. You all know that. I'm not Superman. I want to dedicate the time and energy that it takes for each individual one of these things. Number 1, let's have security chaperone this patient over to a safe area where I can talk to him safely, where it's not so heated.
Yeah.
Number 1. Number 2, I'm going to sign that EKG, make sure there's no STEMI, and then time out on the EKGs just for a minute. With the nurse, one at a time. So there's 3 nurses. Who's got the most important thing? Time out. And when I do that time out, I take a little breath. Right? We're all human beings. I'm no different than anyone else.
Right.
I'm just a human being. You push me and squeeze me tight enough, I'm going to bust just like anyone else. So, time out. And then sometimes when it's really the big moment, I step outside. That's everyone's cue. I'm stepping outside, not even to the break room. I'm going outdoors. I need to calm down for a second.
So you still have the same stimuli that kind of...
It's not going away.
That you could potentially react to, that triggers, really. And now you manage those with your kind of calm communication, a little timeout, or stepping out.
And I do it respectfully. There's no disrespect. I'm not putting a hand in anyone's face. I just say, you know what? You guys got me. This is a little bit overwhelming. Just 1 second. I'm gonna manage everything. You know me. You all know me. I've been here for a long time. I can medically manage every single thing you're talking about and multitask it. Give me a second here. This is a little bit overwhelming.
That what you described
I
there
describe
with
it to them.
Everybody coming at you, like usually there's a time or two a shift where that happens to me too. The PA comes, they got something, and they want to talk about it now. There's a new ambulance right there. The admitting doctor's on the phone. Like, you can't do everything, and they all seem to be these like intense, pressing things. Yeah. And that's where like some of my reaction is just, wait, like kind of a little jerky, like
little
probably.
Jerky,
So I could learn from you and be like, hang on just a second, let me come find you when I get a second, because I want to talk about this. Like what's the most pressing thing I got to deal with now, and then kind of kindly communicate through that.
And I have learned, you don't raise your voice. You're not doing anything passive aggressive. You're not doing anything condescending.
Yeah.
You're just saying to someone, you're giving them the cue. All of you guys, just back off just for 1 second.
Right, because we're only one person. Yeah. You can only do one thing at a time. And
now, when was the last time the guy at the front driving the 747, 35,000 feet up in the air, has every single person in the back asking him for peanuts and water and bathroom break? It just doesn't happen. That guy's in his own space, protected with a bulletproof.
You can't even get to that guy anymore.
No one's talking to him. When he wants a break, he comes out. They push the little cart in the middle, and he socializes with the airline attendants.
Yeah.
And then he goes back. No one's jibber jabbering to him. He's got the headset. He's got his cues, but he's in the zone.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
No.
We don't have that benefit.
No. We're highly accessible. I'm thinking of a lot of the doctor stations are right out in there.
Oh yeah, it's a fishbowl. So now, after that, I have the big crescendo of my wellness. Here's the big crescendo.
Yeah, what do you mean the big crescendo?
Here's the biggest help for me.
Okay.
Right. I've done all that stuff.
It sounds good. You're really just serving this up.
One last thing before I get to the big one. The phone, right? Always picking up the phone. Well, Dyke taught me, pick up the phone, do a little squeegee breath. He calls it squeegee breath. Just take you got to pick up that phone 1,000 times. Everything's talking to you and ringing, and the unit coordinator's talking to you. Every time I pick up the phone, hi, it's Dr. Partnow. How can I help you? Every single time.
Take that pause.
One quick second pause.
Yeah.
So, the big one. I've done the shift. I've done everything. I've managed it perfectly. Do I still have pent-up angst, aggression, frustration, anger, whatever it is? Do I have it internally? Yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't? Who doesn't walk out of a busy emergency room where they have participated in patient care and don't leave with a little bit of whatever that is internally? Well, what do? I get into the car. I listen to some nice music. I drive a nice car because I decided I was going to treat myself. It's my little portable office. Mm-hmm. I then go not home. I do not go home from work.
Oh, okay.
Where do I go?
You go to the gym?
I go to the gym.
Oh, after?
At the gym.
Every time?
If I work 2 to 11, I've worked out before, so I've already drained all of that kind of baggage, so to speak, before going to work. But in general, let's say I work from 5 to noon. I get off at 12:40. I get to the gym by 1:10, 1:15. Mm-hmm. I have a little ritual. I go to the massage mat. I lay down. After I get my workout clothes on, I lay down, take a 15-minute nap. Shut down.
At the gym?
Lights out. Lights out.
You're the homeless guy sleeping on the gym floor.
No, it's raised up. And the massage mat's up high.
You're still sleeping at the gym.
I'm sleeping at the gym.
That's ridiculous.
I am re-energizing my body because I have so much.
I'm not waking you up.
I have so much. It's 15 minutes. I don't have to set an alarm. It wakes me up at 15 minutes. It's a 15-minute power nap. I learned that from my grandfather. I mean, my father-in-law, rather.
Yeah.
My grandfather also took power naps, but my father-in-law is 77, still working. He takes a 15-minute nap at 2 p.m. every day. So I take my 15-minute power nap, and then I just absolutely annihilate the gym. I mean, every single piece of myself is left on the mat. I mean, to the point where I can barely breathe.
Let it out.
Everything. Then,
and you like CrossFit?
CrossFit, I would not say. My wife does more of the CrossFit. I'm doing the HIIT class at the CrossFit gym, so it's called Cardio Flex.
Okay.
It's every day of the week, but the ones that I do tend to be.
But this is the exercise you're doing.
That's the exercise I'm doing. So I would take that to Equinox and do that at my Equinox gym.
Okay.
And just recreate it in my head. But I'm going all the way to the wall. And I'll tell my wife as I'm driving home, honey, I can't come home right now. It's not going to be good. Right? I just have too much to deal with the family stress. You have little kids running around, and
this is one of the biggest. Is this the big thing?
For me, this is the big thing.
So this is one of the biggest ways you cope with this, because this is still here. I think that's your point. This stuff doesn't go away. You don't have this this Zen thing where things just pass through you, and they still don't kind of trigger you to react.
It takes me a lot longer to get to that pent up spot, but So I work out hardcore, and then I come home, and I'm ready for it. I'm ready for anything that the house brings to me. New bills just arrived. The doorbell doesn't work. We just got $3,000 more of expenses coming up our way. I got the kids' project due. I got the kids yelling and fighting. What's for dinner? The whole thing. I can manage any of that stuff. I feel great with it.
With your workout. Have you done little experiments where without the workout, you're just this bottled...
So here's the catch. I've had a frustrating day. I leave late. I don't have time now to go to the gym. Got to balance it. It's either gym or dinner with the kids. Well, dinner with the kids is going to be...
That's more important to you.
Now, I will find help, somebody to go pick up my kids from the school or Project A, B, some kind of after-school thing. I will throw money at the problem, have a helper delegate help.
What does your wife do?
She's a merchandiser for a DKNY. So she works full time. So we split up the chores, but we decided have a college kid for $25, pick up the kids, take some pressure off of us. You work out, I work out.
So you still get the workout.
Now, if I leave too late from work, and it's the shift where I'm fighting traffic and I'm fighting to get home on time, where I really only had 70, 80 minutes to get to the gym and get through the gym and matriculate myself home, then I come home and I'm pent up. And I have a shorter fuse. If the kids are misbehaving or whatever it is, the pressures of life, I mean, it's definitely, I'm not a yeller, but I'm aggravated with the kids. I'm less able to woosah it and deal with it.
Less resilient.
Yeah.
Tolerant.
Then my number one goal is I need me time tomorrow. Tomorrow's me time. So whatever's happening.
What do you do for me time?
The gym is the me time for me, So I decide tonight is, some people turn to alcohol and drugs and all this stuff. For me, at most it's a third of a glass of wine on a day like that. But in general, it's eat healthy, get to bed on time, avoid the bad snacks, because I didn't do anything at the gym to start burning off the calorie. So don't go to the ice cream. Don't go to whatever that thing is that you think is going to make you feel good. Get a good night's sleep. Eat healthy. Get a good night's sleep. Shut the whole thing down. Get the kids matriculated to bed, all that stuff. Get a good night's sleep. The next day, I'm prepped for the shift, the gym, the shift, or just hike. I hike a lot. Hiking is a huge wellness for me. And then one final thing that I do, which really has helped me out a ton recently, is I downloaded an app on the phone. I'm not a tech savvy guy. I'm not really into apps. We're not social media people. I downloaded an app on the phone called Headspace, and it's a meditation app.
Yep.
And I started doing it.
I've done it, very popular.
And it's amazing. And I haven't even...
Now, you said you're not a meditator, but I think that might make you one a little bit.
Not a meditator,
beginner.
but this is a... Boy, listening to him just feels good. And then I can't even make it through.
Andy from Headspace.
I can't even make it through the 3-minute one.
And now, when you're ready, take a couple deep breaths.
And then let your mind wander away from your body and back. So those are my tricks. You know, you have to have healthy relationships outside of the hospital. You have to have to have some kind of physical wellness. Not everyone's an avid workout person. Not everyone has a great diet. It would help. I think that in the emergency room setting, it really helps to, practice what you preach and to avoid salt, avoid cholesterol.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that eating healthy and some sort of movement, I would recommend that for everybody. Yeah. Figure out something you like that you can do that will work.
And then whatever that thing is that gets you to that space that you need to get to, you have to find it as long as it's healthy. For me, it's a lot of hiking. I love watching football on TV, so I get geared up and I make sure that, with my schedule, I dedicate, whether it's because I'm going to record the game or I'm going to hit it live, I make sure that I can watch the Philadelphia Eagles play on Sunday or Monday or Thursday, depending on when it is.
Pretty good team this year.
Yeah, they are quite good.
What happened to that quarterback?
Yeah, he blew out his ACL.
What are you going to do about that quarterback? Foles isn't terrible, but...
And in 2013, he did the job, but
can he take you to the...
all the way to the
dance?
I don't think so.
My team is... We beat you this year. Chiefs. We're terrible now, though.
Yeah, they're not good now. They can't solve the riddle. So, yeah, those are my tricks of the trade. I find that eating healthy, avoiding excessive alcohol, sleeping well, having wonderful personal relationships, doing these tricks of the trade that I have in the hospital, decreasing my workload. I mean, I have more work to do administratively, but that's because that was my passion. But I decreased the workload in the emergency room.
I was going to ask you about that. So now that you've moved from being an assistant or associate director to the medical director, has this changed, or what are the new challenges to your wellness now that you're not in the? Is it easier?
I find it actually easier. My job satisfaction has skyrocketed since becoming the AD and now the director.
And why is that?
I love managing people. I love macroscopically taking care of patients. So you're the system. If the system and the operational aspects of the emergency room are set up and the ancillary is set up to help provide excellent care, it's less stressful for everyone, including myself.
Working on the coal mine. And
it's really, really rewarding professionally. And the way that Mark has described it is you do a shift of 10 hours, you see 20, 25 patients. If you're the director, you're intervening on 80,000 patients a year. It's an unbelievable feeling. So there's also responsibility and stress that goes along with that. So the other day we couldn't find the tono pen. There was no guaiac developer. These things add up to the frustration of the provider, and that doesn't make me feel good. So that's frustrating for me. And I attack the problem fast. If something's put onto my plate, I attack it immediately. Let's come up with a solution. Let's figure out what to do to make everyone's stay in that emergency room better, and decluttering.
So it sounds like in kind of shifting roles, doing less ER work, and kind of now as the director, it's been less stressful and in some ways a little more fulfilling.
And rewarding, yeah. It was my passion. I love helping people, professionals. I really do. It makes me feel really good. And in doing that, I was a 15 to 17 shift guy a month, and right now I'm doing 6 to 8, or 6 to 10. And that is a lot for a director. But I feel, and I do a lot of delegating. So there's a lot of things that Mark used to do himself, doing 4 shifts a month, that worked perfectly for him. And he's, literally the iconic director. I decided, you're not going there to fill his shoes. It's impossible. You can't take that stress on, number one. Number two, delegate. Delegate, delegate, delegate if it works for you. And that's during the shift. And that's also...
You're fine, the sun's hitting me.
That's during the shift, and that's also within the role. So if someone comes at me with a problem with STEMI, I ask Luke Palmisano to deal with it. If it's trauma, I ask Luke. He's our other associate medical director. If it's something with a disaster prep, I ask Wendy because she does disaster prep. If it is
Delegation.
a difficult shift to fill, I lean on the entire group and say, group, please help. We have a difficult shift to fill. Before that, I was just going and doing it myself.
Yeah.
And then with Patrick Shanovich, I have him help me out on a ton of things.
Delegation.
And if I go to a meeting where there is a lot of homework for me, I delegate it. And I think that's
the way to be.
If it works for you, it's a beautiful way to decrease stress. And then I have little checklists. So Mark set me up with a lot of information, and I spent 8 hours one day and said, let me dissect this information and create Excel spreadsheets. And now I take it out of my mind. It doesn't have to be in my mind. It's right there in an Excel spreadsheet. Same thing with my little cheat sheet at work.
Yeah.
I don't, and when someone hands me laboratory work or EKG or whatever it is, or I'm speaking to someone, boom, get it into the computer, get it out of the mind in the computer. And all these little tricks of the trade help decrease stress. But you still have to recognize you're a stressed out person, you're a stress-ridden person, you have physician burnout, and you're working in a very busy, demanding ER. You can't change any of that. All you can do is find coping mechanisms to deal with it. It's kind of like you have to equate it to a diabetic taking their meds, a hypertensive patient, or an alcoholic.
It's a chronic problem.
Yeah, you're not getting away from it. You can't have a sip of the alcohol. The problem is, you can tell an alcoholic, don't hang out with your alcoholic friends. With a physician burnout, you're still going to the emergency room and hanging out and working. There's no way around that. But decreasing it and finding these other ways is definitely helpful.
One thing I think that's cool about you now as a director, that you going through your burnout process, kind of emerging on the other side, now that you're a director, that's a tremendous asset. That you know that, and you know how people feel, and you know how to fix it kind of intimately on the inside. Only makes you a better director,
And getting back to that provider that was having the struggles, he asked me, can I meet with you once a month? And we'll just do touch base.
Kind of mentoring along like that. Yeah. That's cool.
We have another provider that I don't know necessarily, I wouldn't quantify him as being a burned out physician, but he has the disruptive pattern as well. And it's due to stress because he doesn't have any of these problems outside of the emergency room. It's just when you squeeze him tight, he reacts negatively.
How do you cope with that?
And so I had to intervene with that because I got a physician that complained about him, and which will happen when you're the director. You receive these unpleasant emails, and I addressed it with him, and I had a friendly talk with him, and I offered him some of these suggestions on how to manage that.
Let me ask you a couple questions about the book. Go ahead and flash that book again. What were some of the things, what were some kind of the more salient things you took from that book? Helpful things for you?
Recognition that it's okay. You have it, it's okay. You have it.
Like there's nothing wrong with
okay.
you.
It's not a defect.
It's common.
It's common. Talk about it. It's cool, man. Talk about it. And then these mechanisms on how to help yourself.
Yeah.
And then you have to just keep reflecting. This is not going away. You got to keep hitting it all the time and find new ways.
Would you, if a college kid came to you and said they were interested in medicine, would you recommend for or against?
I tell people the same thing every time. If you love it, and it's the thing, it's your thing, it's what you want to do, and you want to do it your whole life, and you know what you're getting into, do it. If you don't love it, do not do it. You have to love medicine. I talk about medicine all the time, not because I'm burned out. I talk about it because I love it. I love medicine. When we were just hanging out socially, and someone brought up and said, it's only physicians that sit here and in gatherings and talk about medicine. It's because if someone said, "Who are you?" I would say, "I'm Josh Partnow. I'm a doctor. I'm a husband. I'm a dad.
Yeah.
I'm an athlete, and I'm Jewish. I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm American." But if someone said, "Who are you?" I'm a doctor. When I leave the hospital, I'm a doctor. I feel like a doctor. When I go to the gym and someone gets hurt, boom, I'm jumping on them.
Yeah.
If I hear an ambulance and it's right near me, I'm looking to see if I can help. If I'm on an airplane, I've started IVs on airplanes.
Have you done some of the airplane calls?
Yeah, I do it all. Because at the end of the day, we are highly trained clinicians, and we have been given a skill set that most people don't have. And I feel that it is my responsibility not to be Superman, but to be aware
Do what you can.
and mindful of anything around me. And I am a success story in the sense that I have risen up in the profession, both at the hospital level and at the company level with VEP, and I hope to impart some help to others that will either A, prevent going through what I went through, or while going through what I went through to kind of nip it in the bud, recognize it to avoid being that disruptive physician and ending up with a termination.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you a couple other questions, and then we'll kind of wrap up. You remember med school?
it's a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
And I was not happy at my med school.
Do you have any advice for medical students on how to do well and survive in medical school?
I mean, you have to balance your time, and you have to make me time. You can't just study and pour everything out the whole time. So my buddies and I decided that going to class was not for us. So we studied during the day at home together.
Yeah.
And then we played basketball with the janitors every day.
Every day?
Yeah. And then we went to the gym, and we were
Again,
going,
this is like this
socializing
athletic
stuff,
theme for you of balance.
and doing a lot of socializing, and making relationships, which was very meaningful and supportive. And then you have to pick the type of medicine that you want to do.
Yeah.
You can't just say, I'm going to be the surgeon. Dad says I'm the surgeon guy. You go into surgery, you are living in the hospital. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. And if that's something that is your passion, I tell students, surgery or no surgery. Okay, here's the scenario. It's 3 p.m. You've worked for 8 hours. Do you want to go to the gym, hike, hang out with your girlfriend, grab a drink, watch the football game, or go upstairs to the operating room for the next 6 hours? Me, it's easy. I want to go to the gym, I want to hang out with my family, and I go watch the Eagles game. I don't want to go to the OR for 6 hours. So some people do. You speak to the surgeons that are truly happy, and they're excited. They want to go back to that OR. That's not, I thought I was the orthopedic surgeon guy my whole life. I was the guy that was going to do that. And then I got there, and this is a moment, if my med school roommate watched this, to be awesome. So we were the gunners in the class, top of the class. We signed up for the ortho.
Where'd you go to school?
UMDNJ, New Jersey Med School. And I went to Cornell undergrad in Ithaca, New York, and it was the Ivy League and the Green and everything. At UMDNJ, it's a decent med school, but it's not top notch. And then it's all concrete in Newark, and it's very, it was kind of shell shocking to us. But so there I am with my roommate. He's a triathlete guy. Now he's a radiologist, just an awesome dude. We're there to get in line for the sub-I, for the ortho sub-I, because we're orthopedic surgeons all the way through.
What year are you? You're in medical school? You're
Third
like
year.
third year? Okay.
First month. So there we are, and beautiful morning, sacrificed working out that day, and there's two other people, standing in line. I'm talking early, real early. So we were accepted into the sub-I along with these other two people.
For your third year sub-I?
Third year,
Okay.
first month.
All right.
So there we are, ortho. So we get the thing, and we show up for the first day, and it was a hip. It was a femur fracture.
Okay.
So we get in there, we're all gowned up, and we literally look like it was that movie, is it Outbreak? Where they put that whole suit on with a monkey virus.
Yeah.
So we got the whole thing on, and you can just barely see one another. And Matt is to my left, and this Chris guy, who's now a successful orthopedist, he looks at us. His eyes are this big, and he goes, I've waited for this my whole life. And I look over at Matt, and it's early in the morning. The last thing in the world I want to do is keep this lead vest on for the next 12 hours. And I look at him, I go, it's done. This is not us, man.
Oh, you did that moment. You were like,
Done.
Not me.
And
He wanted it, you didn't.
Yeah, I felt it. I mean, so I looked at Matt, and I said, so we did our thing, and then we actually, we played hooky for most of that month.
Oh, no kidding. You just skipped
And
out.
I love ortho. It's one of my favorite things to do in the ER. And one last thing, that's another thing that Dyke Drummond said. Find the patient encounter that makes you feel good, and find the procedure or the disease process that you like to take care of that gives you, now obviously you can't cherry pick, but if there's a shoulder and I've had a rough day, I'll say to the other attending that I'm working with, hey man, I've had a brutal day. there's a guy with dislocated shoulder. I love shoulders. Can I just go and do that one? And they'll say, yes, sure, do it. When a patient satisfaction situation is, they're like, doctor, thank you so much. That made me feel so good. You helped me, and I don't have my gallbladder pain anymore, or whatever it is. Or you saved my kid's life. Take that and really internalize it. You might even write it down in a diary. I'm not a diary person, but I bank it. I put it in my memory bank, and he talks about the positive energy bank. Anyway, so as far as med students,
kind of storing in
don't
the
force
good.
yourself to go and do something you don't want to do. It's so important. And if medicine's not your thing, get out. Find something else. And with an MD degree, there's a lot of successful things you can do. You can do public health. You can do concierge medicine. I actually do a concierge medicine gig that really makes me feel good in Hawaii that I do once a year. So it's just, you got to find your niche. And some people like clinical informatics. The wellness is out there. So there's so many options.
We'll kind of wrap up with this. Any advice for residents, young doctors going through the residency process?
So there, they've already selected the field of medicine that they're going into. I would say time management. Avoid the excessive alcohol that is so rampant throughout residencies. Avoid the stimulants. There is a lot of stimulant abuse in our residencies. A ton of it. It's cocaine, it's meth, it's Molly, it's all these stimulants. You have to avoid that stuff. It's so unhealthy. And look, obviously, residency is an extension of college, and people are going to get crazy and have some drinks and go out and fool around with this person, that person. That's just part of life. But you got to be cautious and know that you are at the very beginning stages of creating professional relationships that will go through your entire career. Time manage, sleep, avoiding bad stuff, and get your athletics and make sure that you're not having excessive weight gain throughout residency.
Kind of starting some of these habits that carrying them on later can kind of first stop burnout from even starting.
And even look, things like this is very, very cathartic for me, and this is part of my wellness. Even meeting with you and talking about this.
This is a great interview. Thanks for doing it. Anything else you want to tell everybody?
Yeah, I think within VEP, if there's anyone that wants to reach out to me, partnowjoe@yahoo.com. I also have a VEP email.
Partnow Joe?
Yeah, so PARTNOJO@yahoo.com.
Okay.
Very accessible. I love hearing from people and helping people out. And if there's anything that I can do to kind of help you find your way, I'm here. And I love the fact every time I interview new candidates coming out of residency, I'll say, or really new candidates, no matter where they're coming from, I'll say we have wellness champions both at our site, who is Renee Grevin Garcia, and then within the company with you and with Gary, and that is so meaningful and so useful. That look, you can go somewhere else and make $15 extra an hour, right? If that's what you're interested in, that's on you. If you want to come take care of a very needy patient population that needs our help, we are the safety net. And if you're going to pour your heart out into that, that's going to make you feel good. And if you believe in the VEP model, which is to perform excellent medical care, throughout the country, and you want to be in a place where you're feeling well supported, this is the place. This is the company. And I'm happy that you and Gary are doing this. This is really meaningful.
This was a great interview. I'm hopeful that, we can get it out there and people can learn from it and get better. And those who maybe aren't even aware that they are burnout, like I've been through and you certainly have, can help some people.
Yeah, I really can. All right. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.